What's going on, everybody? It's Uche Nwaneri, your observant lineman. And before we start this video, think about subscribing to Uche Nwaneri if you haven't already done so. And if you like this video, hit that thumbs up down below so you can prop this up on the YouTube algorithm. Now, Kyrie Irving, the point guard for the Brooklyn Nets, he was fined by the NBA as well as the Nets themselves. They were fined as well for violating the NBA interview access policy from the association. And Kyrie Irving, obviously a big face in the New York area as a member of the Brooklyn Nets. One of the faces of the NBA, Kyrie Irving, obviously was with LeBron James in Cleveland, and now in Brooklyn as the point guard. He is being placed in a position of maximum exposure in that big New York market, but he was fined by the NBA, and Kyrie has not taken well to that fine. But first, let's look at this article from the Bleacher Report that talks about that fine itself, and then we'll get into his response, which really is a direct jab at the media itself in regards to how he felt about the fine and why he is committed to more of his basketball responsibilities rather than to be controlled or be used as a tool of propaganda for the media. But let's take a look at the article from Bleacher Report in regards to Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving fined $25,000 along with the New York Nets for violating NBA's interview access policy. It says here Kyrie Irving and the Brooklyn Nets have been fined fine before the 2021 season has even started. According to Shams Charania of the Atlantic and Stadium, the team and point guard were fined $25,000 apiece for circumventing league media rules when Irving issued a statement instead of meeting with reporters. He released that statement in an effort to ensure that his message is conveyed properly. And you know what? I've got to applaud Kyrie Irving for doing what he did and releasing a statement rather than allowing himself to be made a soundbite for whatever agenda or propaganda that the sports media was going to use his words for in setting up whatever stories they want to push in the grander scheme of the NBA and its relationship with the media as a whole. But let's see here. This is the actual statement that was released by Kyrie Irving. He says, "The beer bug has impacted us all in many ways, so I pray for the safety and health of our communities domestically and abroad. I am truly excited for the season to start, and I am also praying that everyone remains safe and healthy throughout this journey. Instead of speaking to the media today, I'm issuing this statement to ensure that my message is conveyed properly. I am committed to show up to work every day, ready to have fun, compete, perform, and win championships alongside my teammates and colleagues in the Nets organization. My goal this season is to let my work on and off the court speak for itself. Life hit differently this year, and it requires me to move differently. So this is the beginning of that change." You know, sometimes as a player, when you're being interviewed in real time, when you're being asked questions and answering them as they come to you, your messaging can be a little bit convoluted because there are a lot of thoughts going on in your head. There are a lot of things that you want to try and convey in what you tell the media, and sometimes what you say doesn't necessarily come out the way that you thought it was going to come out in your head, and that's something that at times can put athletes in very precarious situations. It can have athletes almost demonized or villainized because how they conveyed something wasn't necessarily clear enough to really speak to how they really feel. And you know that's just part of that interview process of not being able to necessarily have the time to think out exactly what it is you want to say and exactly how you want people to understand your perspective. And I think that Kyrie has kind of set an example with this and putting out a statement and making it a concise statement that kind of sets all of the structure for how his perception and how his views of the upcoming season and of his own journey through 2020 are going to play out. I think that this was something that really does warrant some praise, because you don't see this from athletes very often. And a lot of times when athletes do have these kind of statements come out, or release statements in general, they're in times of adversity, they're in times of controversy where they have to kind of backtrack on something they said before, because like I mentioned a moment ago, what you said didn't necessarily match how you felt. So you have to kind of elaborate for people who do, rightfully so, have questions or may feel like you're misrepresenting a subject matter altogether. But the NBA responded to this by fining him. Now, the NBA, of course, is going to say that they fined him because this was an issue of contractual obligations. And look, people, if you want to understand a little bit about how these kind of behind the curtain politics work in sports, being an NFL athlete, being somebody who's been behind that curtain, you have to understand that all of these things are at the discretion of the league. For example, in the NFL, players, the way that when you watch a game, and this is something that people never would believe if I told them this in a million years. But if you're watching a game in the NFL, 95% of all players on the field are violating the team's or the NFL's uniform policy. And that's a finable offense. And players have been fined for that plenty of times. I've been fined for that. I've been fined by Nike for having my shoes spatted because I was a contracted athlete with Nike, and I was wearing their shoes in a game, obviously, and I rolled my ankle. Well, the team medical staff had to tape my ankle up. They used black tape to tape my shoe, so basically giving me a spat over my shoe, and I had one shoe covered. And this was when we were playing, I believe it was against the New York Jets way back, and I had one shoe covered in tape, and the very next day, I received a fine from Nike. The NFL says that you cannot wear your socks showing mainly one solid color. It has to be half and half. Well, when is the last time you really see any athletes wearing socks that are half and half, with half white, half team color? A lot of players have moved into just wearing one solid color, more in line with what you see in college football, and you would rarely, if ever, see a player get fined for that in today's NFL era. Though back in 2007, 2008, they were fining players for those things. They were, Nike was threatening to invalidate my contract if they saw me wearing, not displaying my Nike logos on my shoes in any more games. So these are things that are at the discretion of the league. The NBA doesn't have to fine Kyrie Irving for not speaking with the media and deciding to release a statement instead. You would think that in a sport that right now, the players are having this quick turnaround from their bubble season into their 2021 season, you would think that the NBA would see this as somewhat of a move that is more regarded towards being more efficient in getting a statement to the media so that you can focus on sports. Kyrie's trying to focus on basketball, but he also doesn't want his words to be used in a way that can be misconstrued through real-time media interviews. That's totally understandable as a player. The NBA did not have to fine him for doing this. And in response to that fine, Kyrie Irving went on Twitter, and I think he gave us even a more concise, more clear look into his mindset and how he's perceiving things, and why it kind of validates even more why he released a statement rather than go and deal with the media directly, after the NBA fining him $25,000 and kind of putting him in a position or trying to set him up as someone who is not a team guy, somebody who is not going to hold up his part of the bargain. Now, we know that's the furthest thing from the truth when it comes to Kyrie Irving. He's a perennial all-star. He has carried many of the teams that he's played for in his NBA career. And, he has been a stand-up player who has not found himself in issues with the law, who's not found himself in controversial situations. He just wants to play basketball. But let's take a look at his response, which I thought, honestly, was one of the greatest clapbacks for a player in recent memory in regards to how he was treated by his own league when it came to his decision to handle the media in a different manner. But this is the response from Kyrie Irving here on Twitter. He responds with this, quote, "I've had enough of someone else's propaganda. I'm for truth, no matter who tells it. I'm for justice, no matter who it's for or against. I'm a human being first and foremost, and as such, I am for whoever and whatever benefits humanity as a whole." And that's an end quote. That's a quote from Malcolm X. Now, there's a lot that can be, that you can look at this quote and really pull out an underlying message that Kyrie Irving is trying to convey to his fans and to the media at large. And we'll get into that in a second. But the rest of this statement goes as, "I pray we utilize the fine money for the marginalized communities in need, especially seeing where our world is presently. I am here for peace, love, and greatness. So stop distracting me and my team and appreciate the art. We move different over here. I do not talk to pawns. My attention is worth more." I think that this was a very telling statement coming from Kyrie Irving. He uses a quote from Malcolm X in regards to his not wanting to be the foghorn for another person, or in this case, another institution's propaganda. He is for truth. He is for justice. He is for humanity. And he's really taking a direct shot, in my opinion, at the NBA and at the media. He doesn't want to play the games that sometimes the media will play, especially in the sports world. You give people a quote, they turn your quote into an entire message that deviates from anything that you were really trying to convey in speaking with them. I've been a victim of that in the NFL, speaking with the media, and I'm sure there are countless other players who have done so as well. I respect the hell out of Kyrie Irving for responding in the way he did, because regardless of what side of any kind of ideology or agendas one may be on, there is something to be said about somebody who wants to focus on their job. He's not willing to be a soundbite. He's not willing to have his message or have his words turned into anything less than he wants it to be for the people that follow him as fans and follow the Nets as fans. He wants to keep his focus on the game. He calls it the art. And I appreciate the art. And I appreciate his love for the art, because many people look at these things and say, you're playing a game. No, this is a craft. This is something that people have worked their entire lives to perfect and to be the best that they can possibly be at. This is something that requires your own personality to be injected into your game to elevate you to new heights. These are not things that can be quantified simply by dribbling, shooting, playing, and all the other aspects of the sport that one athlete can be a part of. As a basketball player, he wants to focus on polishing his craft, refining his craft, perfecting his craft. And that has to be applauded. That has to be something, as a fan of the NBA, in the times that we're looking at now with the NBA and how all of these political messages and political drama and debate have creeped into the sport itself. This is something of a refocusing from Kyrie's perspective. He doesn't want to get into politics. He doesn't want to talk about things that aren't necessary when it comes to the game of basketball. And the NBA, much more so right now than the NFL, has become a league that delves far too deeply into the personal politics of people around the country. And I'm not necessarily saying that it doesn't have a place or there shouldn't be a platform to convey one's message when you feel that there's an absolute need for it. But for it to become a part of the daily routine of the NBA has been a shock to me, because in the NFL and generally in sports by large, there's a real hesitancy to get too deep into those realms because we're playing a sport. We are being paid very well to play a sport. We have lives that people would give their left arm, would give their legs, would in some cases give their firstborn to have an opportunity to be in that same position as a professional athlete. So we are unique. We aren't necessarily in touch all the way with the issues of the everyday person. We're not in that kind of scenario or situation where we can necessarily give the best advice or the best perspective to people who, by all intents and purposes, we cannot relate with to a certain extent as grown adults in a world as a professional athlete. And that's fair. That's a fair thing for me as an athlete. I think that's a fair thing to say. Yes, there are a lot of us who have come from backgrounds that didn't have us in the best circumstances, where families struggled and you had to persevere to get what you were. Yes, you do understand the grind and keeping the focus to become the best version of yourself possible. But in this world that we live in today, as an institution, our leagues should not be political. They should not be political leagues that believe or want to necessarily promote any side whatsoever. And bear with me here. It's very complex. It's not a definitive, or it's not an absolute. There is a lot to consider, and there are things that will absolutely warrant some discussion within sports itself. But Kyrie Irving, first and foremost, in this message he's sending is, I am going to control my message. I'm going to be in control of that, not the media and not anyone who's sitting in an office sending down fine letters and taking money out of my pocket because I am not going to necessarily play to the specific rule that they have set for me as a player if I don't believe that rule is in my best interest. Now, again, there's the contractual side of this that has to be respected. And, if you're going by the letter of the contract, then yes, they are within their right as the NBA to fine Kyrie. But like I said before, this is something that is purely in their discretion. They don't have to fine Kyrie Irving for not being involved with the media as they are beginning their training camp and getting into their preseason. But they don't have to do that. They chose to do that. They chose to go ahead and make that move to send a message or to scare Kyrie, which if you're going to try and scare somebody who's making $20+ million a year, probably want to do a little bit more than 25,000. But in the grand scheme of things, it's a minor infraction. It's a minor infraction on the scale of the NBA, but it's a massive infraction at the same time. So in the end, I really have to say that I applaud Kyrie Irving for the stance that he's taken with the NBA in regards to the fine. I think it was it was about more than the money in this situation. I think Kyrie was trying to set a tempo for the season, a tempo for his teammates, and trying to really send a message to the media directly that his focus this year is on basketball, and it will not be distracted by the politics of the day or the news of the day that the NBA media will be trying to get his perspective on and trying to use that perspective to lay out an agenda for themselves and an agenda for their networks. This is how the media works. We all know this. They have stories that they have to sell to the public in order to exist, in order to be entertaining, in order to create an environment where people are tuning in every day and people are interested in what they have to talk about. And a lot of times that we've seen now in society, a lot of these issues are very touchy subjects, very divisive issues that don't necessarily belong in the sports world as a front page headline, as something that can really drive a divider in between people who are just fans of the sport. They want to hear about news dealing with the sport, and that's probably a bigger priority for fans than having, you know, political messaging or social messaging, you know, pushed down their throats. You have to understand that people don't always want to have to deal with that. But let me know what you guys think. Kyrie Irving sending a message directly to the NBA in regards to the fine that he received for not participating in the league's interview access policy. Do you agree with Kyrie on this? Do you disagree with them? Let me know. Leave your comments down below. Make sure you hit the like button if you like this video. I am your observant lineman, Uche Nwaneri. I appreciate you guys very much for checking out this video, and I will catch you all on the next one. Peace.